Hi, and welcome back to Unveiling the Hidden Half. I'm Samantha, and today we're going to explore the transformative period from the 1980s to the present. This era witnessed significant shifts in women's roles, from the rise of third and fourth wave feminism to advances in LGBTQ rights and the global women's rights movement. Activism stretched from grassroots organizing to Supreme Court cases, shaping the fight for equality in profound ways. The 1980s marked the rise of third wave feminism, which expanded on earlier feminist movements while pushing for a broader, more inclusive understanding of identity and power. Central to this shift was Bell Hooks, whose book, Feminist Theory from Margins to Center, in 1984, critiqued the mainstream feminist movement for centering the experiences of white, middle-class women while marginalizing the voices of women of color. Her works emphasized the importance of intersectionality before the term was widely known, calling for feminism to address issues like systematic poverty, racism, and global inequality. Figures like Audre Lorde, a Black lesbian poet and activist, also emphasized the necessity of addressing race, class, and sexuality within feminism. Her works, like Sister Outsider, argued that ignoring these identities perpetuated oppression and stifled the potential for solidarity among marginalized groups. At the forefront of feminist media, Gloria Steinem co-founded Miss Magazine in 1972, a groundbreaking publication that continued to thrive through the 1980s and beyond. The magazine provided a platform to highlight women's issues from workplace equality to reproductive rights, and its bold covers and investigative pieces made it a touchstone for feminist thought. Meanwhile, Angela Davis brought a critical perspective to feminist discourse, linking the fight for women's liberation to the struggles against mass incarceration, police violence, and capitalism. Her 1981 book, Women, Race, and Class, explored how these systems of oppression intersected, shaping a feminism grounded in social justice and collective liberation. Davis's activism and academic work inspired generations to view feminism as a global, transformative force. Amid cultural backlash, figures like Phyllis Schlafly pushed against feminist progress, rallying support to block the Equal Rights Amendment. Schlafly's Stop ERA campaign weaponized fears of societal change to galvanize a conservative base, marking a stark contrast to activists like Steinem and Davis, who envisioned feminism as a way to liberate all genders from restrictive roles. Amid this cultural battleground, Andrea Dworkin emerged as one of the most provocative feminist theorists of this era. Dworkin's work was deeply influential in critiquing not only traditional gender roles, but also how patriarchal structures were embedded in sexuality itself. Her writings, particularly in the book Intercourse in 1987, challenged cultural assumptions about the nature of heterosexual relationships, arguing that male dominance was inherently linked to violence against women. Dworkin contended that pornography played a central role in normalizing this violence, a view that sparked fierce debates within feminist circles. Far from being confined to academic theory, Dworkin's work directly impacted feminist activism. Alongside fellow activist Catherine McKinnon, Dworkin helped spearhead legal battles against pornography using Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, seeing it as a civil rights violation against women. They worked together to advocate for laws that would classify pornography as a form of sex discrimination, a move they believed was necessary to combat the pervasive violence and dehumanization of women in media and society. Their anti-pornography ordinances were highly controversial, dividing feminists between those who saw pornography as an exploitation of women and others who viewed sexual expression, even in its most commodified forms, as part of women's liberation. Ultimately, it was considered one of the least successful social movements in United States history, but it's left a long legacy. By the 1990s, new sects of feminism began to emerge, such as the Riot Grrrl movement, a punk feminist movement combining music, zines, and activism to address issues like sexual violence, body image, and patriarchy. Bands like Bikini Kill became synonymous with the movement, while zines served as grassroots platforms for young women to voice their anger and challenge societal norms. Riot Grrrl's unapologetic, stereotype-breaking presence influenced broader conversations about feminism, particularly among younger generations. And in 1991, Anita Hill brought the issue of workplace harassment into the national spotlight when she testified against Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas. She faced intense scrutiny and hostility, and Thomas was still confirmed. But Hill's testimony helped make sexual assault and harassment a central feminist issue. The concept of modern-day silent sentinels emerged as feminists began drawing inspiration from early 20th century suffragists. Today, groups like the Resist and Persist movement hold silent protests, often standing in front of courthouses or government buildings to raise awareness about reproductive rights, LGBTQ justice, and voting access. These demonstrations honor the legacy of the women who stood vigil for suffrage a century earlier, linking historical activism to contemporary struggles. Figures like Grace Jones, a Jamaican-American singer, a fashion icon, challenged rigid gender norms with her androgynous style and unapologetic persona. Jones became a symbol of empowerment, using her artistry to subvert traditional expectations of femininity and race. By the 2010s, fourth wave feminism emerged, fueled by the power of social media and concept of intersectionality. One major example of this is the rise of the Me Too movement, a movement founded by Tarana Burke to support survivors of sexual violence. Burke, a longtime activist, emphasized the movement's roots in marginalized communities, even as celebrities like Alyssa Milano helped bring it to the global spotlight. Reproductive rights were central to feminist activism from the 1980s onward. In 1992, the Supreme Court's decision in Planned Parenthood v. Casey upheld Roe v. Wade, but also highlighted the precariousness of reproductive freedoms. Activists like Gloria Feldt, who led Planned Parenthood from 1996 to 2005, championed reproductive justice during this challenging time, advocating for policies that ensured equitable access to contraception and abortion. However, the weak basis of these cases came to a head in 2022 when Dobbs v. Jackson overturned Roe and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, leaving the abortion legislation decisions up to the states. In LGBTQ rights, figures like Eddie Windsor played pivotal roles. Windsor, the plaintiff in United States v. Windsor in 2013, successfully challenged Section 3 of the Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, which made marriage legally between a man and a woman at the federal level, leading the Supreme Court to strike down the federal ban on recognizing same-sex marriages. Her victory was a landmark in the fight for LGBTQ equality, paving the way for Obergefell v. Hodges in 2016, guaranteeing the right to marry to same-sex couples, and the eventual repeal of DOMA in 2022. Activism also extends to pushing boundaries within traditionally male-dominated spaces, including the Catholic Church. Father Ann, a Catholic priest, is advocating for the ordination of women, challenging long-standing ecclesiastical norms. By conducting inclusive worship and elevating marginalized voices within the church, she represents the growing demand for gender equality in religious institutions, sparking conversations that reverberate globally. In the 21st century, feminism has grown increasingly global, addressing issues such as environmental justice, labor rights, and gender-based violence. At the forefront of these movements, Indigenous women like LaDonna Bravebull led the charge against the Dakota Access Pipeline at Standing Rock, emphasizing the environmental and cultural devastation faced by Indigenous communities. Another incredible example is the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women movement, which continues to highlight the epidemic of violence against Indigenous women in North America, pushing for systematic reforms and international recognition. In Latin America, activists like Andrea Diatri spearhead movements like Ni Una Menos to combat femicide and gender violence. Her work has mobilized millions of women across Argentina and beyond, showcasing the power of feminist solidarity in addressing structural violence. Okay, so from the rise of third and fourth wave feminism to the globalization of the movement, the period from 1980 to the present has been marked by progress and persistent challenges. Women like Gloria Steinem, Anita Hill, Eddie Windsor, Angela Davis, Bell Hooks, and countless others have reshaped the landscape of feminist activism, highlighting the interconnected struggles for racial, gender, and LGBTQ justice. As we move forward, these voices remind us that the fight for equality is far from over. And I want to take this moment to remind you that no story I ever tell here is complete, so I hope you use this as a stepping stone to continue doing your own research. Keep uncovering the hidden half.